Every mechanic on YouTube is going to tell you to pour Catalytic in the tank and go for a 20-minute highway drive. And some of them mean well, but I have been doing this for 20 years, and I will be straight with you. On a Ram with a 5.7 Hemi, that advice gets people nowhere fast. Not because the method is completely wrong, but because the reason your Ram's catalytic converter is dying has almost nothing to do with carbon buildup, and everything to do with something FCA has been quietly ignoring since 2009. I am going to walk you through the full picture today. The methods that actually work, the ones I would skip entirely, and the reason some of you have already replaced your converter once and are about to do it again without fixing anything. Before you pour anything into that tank, there is one thing you need to rule out first, because I see it misdiagnosed constantly, and it will send you down the wrong road entirely. Last year, a guy came in with his 2017 Ram 1500. A previous shop had sold him a new catalytic converter 6 months earlier, and the exact same code was already back. He was ready to write another check. Before I even looked at the converter, I popped the hood and walked the manifold, and right there near cylinder 8 there was soot streaking around the joint. A hairline crack was leaking exhaust right past the downstream oxygen sensor, the sensor reading dirty air, and throwing a converter code that had nothing to do with the converter. We fixed the manifold for under $400, and that truck has not thrown a code since. The Hemi manifold bolts have been snapping since 2009. FCA put out a repair notice, extended the fix to newer trucks, and people are still posting about broken bolts on 2016 and 2019 1500 trucks right now. When that bolt breaks and exhaust starts leaking near the sensor, you get a converter code that has nothing to do with the converter. Roughly 30% of converter codes on these trucks are caused by exhaust leaks, lazy oxygen sensors, or active misfires. Pop the hood and look at the exhaust manifolds for soot around the joints. That black residue tells you exactly where the leak is without a single tool. Find it there and you just saved yourself a converter replacement. Once you have ruled that out, the cleaning methods are worth trying. But the way you run them matters more than which one you pick, and this is where I see people waste the most time doing it half right. The Italian tune-up is the first thing I recommend, and every video on this topic will tell you the same thing. Take the truck for a 20-minute highway cruise at around 3,000 RPM. I personally think they have the right idea, but they are doing it wrong, especially on a Hemi. A highway cruise on a 5.7 liter at 75 miles per hour gets your catalytic converter to roughly 900 degrees Fahrenheit. 900 degrees sounds like more than enough, but it is not. The converter needs to soak above 1,100 degrees Fahrenheit for at least 30 minutes to burn off real carbon deposits. A relaxed cruise does not get you there. Put your 1500 in tow haul mode, or use electronic range select to drop it into 4th or 5th gear and hold it at 3,000 to 4,500 revolutions per minute for 40 to 45 minutes. Load the bed with 500 pounds if you have it. That combination of engine speed and real load is what actually gets the converter hot enough to clean itself. I have seen this clear a borderline code completely, and by 6 months on a converter that was right on the edge of failing, which matters if you need to pass emissions before replacement. One thing about running this on a Hemi I always make sure to mention: do not do this cold. Warm the truck up normally for 10 minutes of easy driving before you push it. The manifold bolts we just talked about are already weakened from years of heating and cooling, and aggressive cold start revving on a corroded bolt is how they snap. For the 3.6 Pentastar Ram, you do not have to worry about that as much. Warm it up, take it out on the highway, and put the engine under the same kind of real load. The tune-up clears the code for some of you, and that is the end of the story. But if your light keeps coming back, I need to tell you something that most shops will never bring up because fixing it means less work for them. On the 5.7 and 6.4 Hemi, FCA's own rules say losing 1 quart of oil every 1,000 miles is fine, 1 quart per 1,000 miles. I personally think that is insane, but nobody at FCA has asked me. If you are not pulling a dipstick between oil changes, your truck could be doing this right now and you would have no idea. All of that oil burns off as exhaust and leaves metal deposits from the oil additives coating the inside of the catalytic converter. And the worst part is, this is not a carbon problem. You cannot burn it off and you cannot dissolve it. Once those oil deposits bake permanently onto the converter surface, Catalytic does not reach them, and nothing else you pour into the fuel tank does either, and it gets worse from there. The cylinder deactivation system the Hemi uses makes it worse. The cylinders that deactivate still pass oil past the rings while they are shut off. When they fire again, that oil hits the converter all at once instead of spreading out like normal. On top of that, the MDS lifters themselves fail, starting around 40,000 to 100,000 miles on higher mileage trucks. When a lifter seizes it causes a misfire, and a misfire dumps raw fuel directly into the converter and can melt the ceramic honeycomb from the inside. Stellantis is currently fighting a class action lawsuit over exactly this, covering 2014 through 2022 Ram 1500, 2500, and 3500 trucks. The Ram owners behind that lawsuit watched their trucks develop the tick while the dealer kept telling them it was normal. If your truck burns oil and your cat is throwing codes, cleaning it buys you time. Know that going in. And if you have the V6 1500, stop here because what I am about to tell you is probably the reason you are watching this video in the first place. If you have a 3.6 Ram from 2011 through 2013, there was a factory defect in the left cylinder head where the valves on cylinders 2, 4, and 6 were wearing down and causing misfires. Those misfires were pushing unburned fuel straight into the converter. I found a ProMaster owner in the forums who had replaced both cats at 14,000 miles and then again at 70,000 miles. Every time he came in, they handed him a new converter and sent him home. Nobody ever looked at the head. FCA eventually put an extended warranty on it, but that window has closed for most of these trucks now. If you have replaced your cat more than once on a V6 Ram at low mileage, get a shop to pull the misfire codes before you buy another one. Cylinder 2, 4, or 6 showing a pattern means the head is killing your converters, not the other way around. Now you know why your converter keeps dying. Let's talk about what you can actually do about it right now without spending $1 at a shop. Catalytic is the most common recommendation, and on the right converter failure, it does work. It is a chemical cleaner that breaks down soft carbon deposits and the gummy residue from short trip driving or a misfire. What it cannot do is reach the oil deposits baked onto the inside of a damaged converter. Those deposits are permanently fused to the surface, and nothing you pour into your fuel tank gets near them. On a converter that is right at the edge from normal carbon buildup, my own experience puts the success rate around 60 to 65%. Dosing is where people mess this up. For a Ram 1500, use one 16-ounce bottle with the tank down to a quarter. Not half a tank, a quarter. Owners of Ram 2500 and Ram 3500 need 2 bottles. After you add it, do the tow haul pull we talked about, not a quick trip around the block. Heat pushes the dissolved deposits out through the exhaust. Check your codes after a week of normal driving. CRC, guaranteed to pass, is a solid alternative if you are trying to clear an emissions test specifically. Same dosing approach, slightly better detergent package. On a Ram with oil consumption or a misfire history, These products will not hold long term. Best case, the code stays off long enough to get through the test or the sale. That is the ceiling of what a bottle of cleaner can do against a converter that has been damaged from the inside. The additive is your first move. Pair it with seafoam spray through the throttle body and you get more out of both. There are two ways people use seafoam on a Hemi, and one of them I do not recommend. The vacuum line method works fine on a lot of engines, but on the 5.7 liter and 6.4 liter, the compression ratio is 10.5 to 1 and 10.9 to 1. Too much liquid in one cylinder and you have a hydrolock, bent connecting rods on a shop floor, and a 5-figure bill. Some guys in the forums have pulled it off anyway. I respect the commitment. I also feel bad about the connecting rods. The throttle body spray is the one I actually stand behind. Use seafoam spray aerosol with the included straw, with the engine warm at 2,000 revolutions per minute, and use short bursts into the throttle body opening. It cleans carbon off the top of the pistons and the backs of the valves. It does not directly touch the catalytic converter, but if heavy carbon upstream is making the engine burn fuel poorly, cleaning that up cuts down on the buildup reaching the cat. Run the tow haul pull after that, and you are doing everything you can short of replacement. Now the method I keep getting asked about in the comments, this one I want to kill once and for all on a Hemi. The water into the intake method has worked on older, lower compression engines, and the chemistry is real. At the temperature your cylinder runs, steam does break down carbon on piston tops and chamber walls and exits as exhaust gas. On a lower compression engine where there is more room for mistakes, a careful person can do this without breaking anything. On the 5.7 liter or 6.4 liter Hemi, I would not do it. These are high compression engines with an intake manifold that has low spots inside where liquid can pool before it hits the cylinders. If even one cylinder receives more water than it can compress in a single stroke, the piston hits a liquid wall and something bends. I know a guy who hydrolocked a 2015 Ram 2500 doing this exactly as described in a YouTube tutorial. He followed the procedure carefully, took his time with it, and still bent a connecting rod. But the bigger problem is this: no real proof shows that water vapor does anything useful to a catalytic converter. By the time anything reaches the catalytic converter, it has already passed through the engine and is just exhaust coming out the other side. The claimed benefit for the cat does not hold up. The risk to your engine is real, and I would not roll those dice. Skip this one on the Hemi entirely. So you have done the tune-up, tried the additive, and the light came back anyway. That means replacement is on the table, and if you have only called one shop so far, you are probably about to pay twice what you need to. A Ram 1500 with the 5.7 Hemi runs a dual exhaust, 4-converter system, 2 manifold-mounted primary converters, and 2 underfloor secondary converters. If a dealer tells you they need to replace one side, the quote lands somewhere between $2,500 and $3,500. Both sides on a 1500 run $4,000 to $6,000. On a 2500 or 3500 with the 6.4, single-side dealer quotes start at $3,000 and climb well past $4,000. I have seen insurance claims from Ram TRX owners where the dealer quoted nearly $9,000 for both converters. The dealer absolutely knew insurance was paying. Nobody at the dealership is going to bring up what I am about to tell you. MagnaFlow makes an OEM-grade direct fit converter for the 5.7 Hemi that bolts straight in, passes emissions in all 50 states, and costs $400 to $500 per side in parts. A local muffler shop can install it in under 2 hours per side. Your total bill for both sides on a 1500 is $1,200 to $1,800 all in, against a $4,000 to $6,000 dealer quote. That gap is not small. It is the cost of a transmission job. One thing that will ruin your day if you are not ready for it. Bolts will snap the moment a wrench touches them after years of heat and rust. Soak them with penetrating oil for several days before you start. Work on a warm engine, and know how to deal with a broken bolt before you pick up the wrench. Also swap the downstream oxygen sensors at the same time. $40 to $90 each for a Bosch or Denso unit. Old sensors baked at high heat for 80,000 miles are the most common reason a brand new aftermarket converter throws a code in the first week. The short version is this. These cleaning methods work on a converter that is borderline carbon fouled or right at the threshold before an emissions test. They buy time, but they do not fix a sick engine. If your Ram is on its second or third converter under 150,000 miles, something upstream is killing them, and that is what this whole video has been about. The dealer will keep selling you converters without ever having that conversation. You should not let them. Before you go, there is one more video you need to watch. I put out a video on 3 Ram trucks currently sitting on dealer lots, priced low, and almost nobody knows why they are bargains. If you walk into a dealer knowing what I cover in that video, you will understand exactly what those trucks have been through, why they are priced the way they are, and how to tell the difference between a truck that was taken care of and one that was quietly abused and traded in. Everything we covered today about how these engines fail and how dealers handle it plays directly into that video. Find it before you set foot on a dealer lot.